and welcome to Navigating Betrayal webinar, podcast, and YouTube channel. I'm your host, KayLee Dunn, betrayal navigation coach and betrayal trauma therapist. And I'm also the admin of this free Facebook group, Humans Navigating Betrayal, and we just hit 15,000 members. I just want to send a thank you to all those who've been here along with us since 2020 when we started. And for those listening on YouTube or in the podcast, you're always welcome to join. Before we start, I want to send a little reminder to those of you listening that this is a sensitive topic that we're going to be addressing today. We're going to try to keep it as light as we can, but also this can be heavy for a lot of people. So I want you to be sure to take care of yourself, take breaks while listening if you need to. And if something you feel doesn't apply or is triggering, be sure to check in with your local mental health provider, because this is not a replacement for your mental health provider. With that said, I would like to introduce you to Kendra King. Kendra is a licensed therapist and the owner of Healing Heart Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. With over 14 years of experience in mental health and addiction recovery, she specializes in helping partners of sex and porn addicts and is guiding couples through affair recovery and sex therapy. She's a passionate advocate, and she's also worked extensively with young women affected by exploitation and trafficking. So thank you so much, Kendra, for joining us here today. Before we jump into questions, is there anything else you'd like to add about yourself?
No, I'm just very honored to be here and to be a part of your platform, especially being able to discuss this topic. So,
Yeah, thank you. For those who are here in the Facebook group live, remember to stick around to the end. We will have an opportunity for Q&A. And if you're listening to this later in the group, you're also welcome to ask your questions there, and we can get you connected with Kendra. So, okay, let's jump in. So the title of our presentation or podcast today is When Betrayal Breaks the Bedroom. So what does that actually mean for the betrayed partner in your experience? Emotionally, physically, relationally? Like, what happens with betrayal?
yes. So I think that's an amazing question, topic, title. Um, it's very loaded. So physically, there is an aversion towards wanting to engage in physical intimacy. Emotionally, there's a sense of distrust. So, as women, we have to have a sense of emotional safety in order to engage in physical intimacy. And when betrayal happens, that is broken. So, it takes time to rebuild that connection and that desire to engage in physical intimacy. And there is no timeline, time frame. I get a lot of questions about, Kendra, how long is this going to take? Or when am I going to go back to normal? And it's just like, there is no normal and there is no set date time on when that desire is going to come back. However, there is hope. There is hope. It's just being willing to commit to the journey is the biggest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're so right that when betrayal hits for a betrayed partner, men or women, and we do tend to see fewer men in our offices, but
Yeah.
I've seen that a lot here in the Facebook group. The men that join also struggle with this as
Yeah.
well often.
Yeah.
That sense of safety is lost. So I love that you highlight the importance of not just physical safety. And of course, when it comes to affair partners or betraying partners who are seeking affair partners, so often there's a physical safety component there too that's ignored, right?
Mhm.
But then that emotional betrayal. So I love that you highlight that importance of safety and how often it can feel like the bedroom is broken. What I once maybe either wanted and maybe never got, or what I had is now lost. And there's a feeling of brokenness there. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So why would you say that sexual safety is often one of the last areas to heal?
I would say that it's true. I feel based off of just my professional experience and working with partners and also betrayers as well.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need, before all this even happened, we didn't talk about sex in the first place. So, like, how do we expect to really heal that aspect, reconnect that aspect if we never really touched it? You know, sex
Yeah.
is so taboo, but it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
So, I think that foundationally, I need to reconnect, rebuild a relationship with my friend. Do I still like you as a person? Am I going to
Yeah.
grow into liking you as a person again? Do I trust you just being my friend, us just talking surface level at first, like me having a desire to eat, like, because there's such like a disgust and hurt. I don't want to be around you. Don't talk to me. Every aspect of you is just triggering,
Yeah.
feeling that. Then like, okay, let's just spend time. Let's spend time. Then can I start talking about how I feel? And maybe when I start talking how I feel, the first thing comes out is how you hurt me. So can we sit in that for a little while? Once we get past that, like, are we able to get to a sense of, do I want to engage in sex with you? I don't know. I have the
Right.
desire, but what if you hurt me again? Like there's just there's this back and forth, push and pull. But I definitely think that sex is the last thing that either party want to touch on or even
Yeah.
feel yet, because there's just so much brokenness with those foundational things.
Oh, I love how you're framing this. And I think we'll get to later talking about that. Sometimes there's a hypersexual period that can happen for the
Mhm.
betrayed
Yes,
partner early on. And we'll
yes.
get to that. But in general, I think that the big picture for most people really is what you're describing. And I love that, like rolling it back. I had another therapist on the podcast who was talking, I think it was on this podcast, he was talking about when a betrayer is kind of being like, well, we're not even having sex anymore. He's like, hey, we're building a house here and you're trying to talk about paint color swatches
Right,
and we're not
right.
even
Bringing
having
up
the cement
pictures.
poured.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Yeah. And I love that you're kind of bringing in that same concept is like, hey, we got to bring it back to like, do I even know who you are? Because
Yes.
after that initial shattering of discovery, it's like, who even are you? Who am
Mhm.
I even with? And that's very world altering and trying to sort out like who have you been and who
Yeah,
are you going to try to be in terms of
yeah.
like the betraying partner, right?
Mhm.
Are you feeling remorse? Are you going to stop the behavior? How did you get here? And are you going to shift that and change that? And then am I safe really has to be that foundation of like almost starting as strangers and then into friendship and then into a
Yeah.
relationship. And that's kind of the healthy way intimacy grows over time, right?
Dave
Is
Rosenau,
kind of building
rest in
that.
peace. He made what is the book called? Intimacy in
And
Color.
yeah,
It
yeah.
starts off in green, and it's just a friendship, right? We're working through that, and I think the next one's like yellow, then orange, then purple. So there is a sense of we got to take it one step at a time. We can't rush through things. And the biggest thing for me is the idea of, if I can't trust you with my heart, how can I trust you with my body?
Yeah.
Like I don't, mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you've already hurt me one time. And don't let there be some physical ramifications that have happened as well with the betrayal. That can turn into something too. I've had
Hmm.
partners who have engaged in intimacy physically with the betrayer and have ended up having to go seek medical guidance. So
Right.
there's so many lanes, so many lanes. So
Hmm.
yeah, it gets deep, KayLee.
Yeah, it does. And like you said, the sexual component, it's it's existing throughout the healing process in our minds and in our awareness, but to get to that healthy place, right, is
Mhm.
down the lane. Would you say that the partners you work with, because I think I've experienced this, the partners and the betraying partners struggle with slowing things down like that? And
Yes.
talk to us a little about that.
Yes.
How do you work with people and help
Okay.
us like, okay, pull on the brakes, like,
Yes.
whoa.
So we all know about boundaries. We may struggle with establishing them, but there are different types of boundaries. There are sexual boundaries, and them
Hmm.
being honored, you honoring as well as the betrayer honoring them too. That is probably also a push and pull situation, because the betrayed partner may want to feel open to engaging in physical intimacy. However, the betrayer kind of pushes a little bit to see how far they can go in re-engagement in physical intimacy. So a lot of communication needs to happen. A lot of, I'm going to hold fast to this sexual boundary that I've established with you. I've put it out there. You said you agreed to it. What is the consequence if you violate it? Also, I found that even the betrayed partner violates it as well. So we
Mhm.
have to be realistic in kind of how we re-engage in physical intimacy, and we honor ourselves and we advocate for what our needs are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in an ideal situation, the betrayer, the person who cheated or participated in the affair or the pornography addiction or whatever's going on there, in an ideal world, they would be really in the forefront of protecting their partner's sexual health and really advocating for obtaining consent
Mhm.
very actively. And again, I think this is ideal for creating relational safety.
Yeah.
We don't see that often unless they have a really good therapist or coach or sponsor that's like really coaching them in how to do that.
Mhm.
But whether they do or not, we all are responsible for advocating for ourselves,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so, in order to say, this is where I'm at, this is what I can handle, and being honest, like you said, it could
Mhm.
be really hard for all of us, I think, as human beings, to
Yeah.
really know where we're at emotionally,
Yes.
physically, sexually, to be aware, to be mindful,
Yeah.
especially with kids, work,
Mhm.
church, business,
Mhm.
social media, other media, just constant. It's hard to be mindful and be aware of like what actually does feel safe to me. So it kind of starts at figuring that out, right?
I
And then
agree.
advocating. So I like how you said that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um how do you think the betrayal, the discovery, the process of that affects the person's ability to feel safe with touch, arousal, and closeness?
I think it depends on the person.
Mhm.
It depends on just how they received the discovery, how they processed, do they want to process? Every
Mm.
partner is different. They may need more information. They may not want to know anything. Just the fact
Mhm.
that, are you going to do this again? Like, if you're going to do this again, then we need to go on and just figure out what we're going to do. So everybody's different. And so being able to engage in that as a support or a therapist or a coach, whatever, being focused on the individual experience
Yeah.
is the biggest thing. You have to honor the person. You have to be able to figure out what is it that this individual needs and wants to do moving forward. And when it comes to physical touch, it's like, were they physically affectionate before? Is that
Right.
even like a thing for them? Everybody's love
Right.
languages are different when it comes to physical touch. Like, I've had some moms who are married or in coupleships, and they're just like, I don't want to be touched, Kendra, already. I'm already
Mhm.
touched on by these kids. I don't want to be
Mhm.
touched on by my partner. And you throw in betrayal in there, they really just like, I'm good. I'm good. So it just really depends on the person and if that is a need. But also, this gets a little tricky because a lot of the times I get, well, that's just something that I don't do. Even before the affair, the whatever happened,
Mhm.
there was no physical touch.
Mm.
The partner may have requested or expressed the need of physical touch, and I'm not in, I don't, that's not me.
Mhm.
But they wanted the betrayer
Mhm.
sought that out from somebody because they couldn't get their need met. It does not justify. Let me
No, no, no,
clarify
no.
this,
Yeah.
people. It does not justify their actions. However, something led to this. There's something there that happened before you. There may have been something that
Mm.
happened before they even did what they did. So being able to express what are our needs. A lot of times people get together and don't talk about needs. They don't talk about wants, desires, try to get a better understanding of the other person as opposed to it's all about me. It is, but at the same time, it's all about them too.
Mhm.
So how can we compromise? How can we fill in the gaps of one another? Yeah, you may not be a physical, touchy type of person, but your partner is. Okay, well, we can cuddle a little bit, or we can hold hands. We can do this. There is a gray area we can work through, but you cannot just deny your partner of their needs being met, especially if that's something that is how they're able to thrive in the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because you wouldn't want it done to you. So we got to work with one another and
Yeah.
try to encourage that, finding a healthy balance conversation. Nobody wants to talk about stuff, especially stuff that brings up tension. But how are we going to be healthy together? How are we going to
Yeah.
grow into a sense of connection? I think we get caught up in this sense of it's all about me, this I society. I have to have, and it's like, it don't work like that when you want to be in a successful relationship. Not perfect, but
Yeah.
successful, healthy. We're growing together. We're honoring each other's individuality. We're connecting emotionally. We're making time for one another. It may not be
Mm-hmm.
all the time. It may have to be scheduled. It may be spontaneous, but we're able to be flexible. I think sometimes we get so rigid. And then we get
Mm.
caught up in social media and you see this stuff and you see what it looks like on the outside. And then you don't really see what's going on within. And it's just like, well, they do this and they have this going on. Well, you don't know what all this comparison, and being able to focus on just what is before you, what's in your face, what's present.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you make so many good points here. I like how you kind of started with like this is tricky because it's something we have to talk about. It can be triggering or hard to hear. I also like that you left us with the caveat, right? Like that a partner, like let's say someone who doesn't have a high physical touch threshold, they don't really like if they're the betrayed person, they didn't like touching, they didn't have a lot of sex, they potentially could have had some shame tied with sex in childhood or their culture that they grew up in and that happened and the other person could have taken 100,000 infinite different routes to cope with that and they chose a route that's betraying and that's not okay, right? And we're saying that right at the gate, and you're saying okay, and then there's timing. So because a betrayal happened, now that's paint on the wall. We can't necessarily deal with that right away, this mismatch in the two partners' desire of physical touch.
Mhm.
And at some point, if that marriage wants to make it work or that relationship wants to make it work, we will have to come back to that, right? It's not something that can be like, oh, we never have to talk about this mismatch in physical touch. Eventually, at some point, when there's safety, when there's no more betrayal, when there's no more emotional abuse, when we're dealing with two people in a marriage,
Mhm.
just kind of like any couple, I could get a couple off the street. There's no betrayal involved. Both people
Yeah.
are, if there's a mismatch in that physical touch, it's something we're going to have to deal with. And the
Mhm.
same is going to happen for this couple when they've like moved through the betrayal and the trauma of it. And that's going to take a lot of time. That's going
Right.
to take time if they want to do that and they want to try to make that work. So I like that you bring that up. With that question around safety and touch is where did you start? Where did you start as the betrayed partner, because if there's a history of harm, which is unfortunately so common for women to have a history of assault, to have a history of harm, then you may have already had some kind of aversion to touch. On the other hand, again, we'll talk more about that hypersexual reaction. If there's harm, if there's been a history of harm, sometimes there's a I use sexual touch to help me feel better, to help me cope, and now my partner's not safe, and yet I want that, and I feel like I need that coping mechanism of physical touch, even if it's not safe, because he might be acting out with people and bringing home
Right.
transmitted diseases and things like that. So it is complex, but I do like this important part of where did it start.
Mhm.
I think that's really important. um so when we talk about sexual safety and reclaiming sexual safety, um we've touched on this a tiny bit, but I want to get a little deeper into it. Where does that start when you're like, okay, there's a betrayal. It happened maybe 6 months ago or a year ago. Maybe it happened yesterday because everyone here has different places, right? You said everyone's unique. I do need to reclaim sexual safety. I don't think I have that. Where's the first step? Where do you start with them?
Let's start with, tell me about your sexual relationship prior to all this. So we go back to that initial, where did this all begin? Did you experience any lack of sexual safety from previous relationships, previous experiences that you weren't able to process? that your partner may not know how it emotionally impacted you. You may have shared with your partner what happened, but you didn't share with them like how you show up now as your sexual self, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
still some underlyings. Do you feel like you can engage in a manner where you feel safe? Are you communicating when you don't feel safe or when something comes up? So really getting that communication more consistent around the
Mm.
topic of sexual safety. When did it go wrong? How did it go? Like how did they contribute to it? So really talking about
Yeah.
sexual safety, because like I said in the beginning, we're not talking about sex. We're doing
Mm-mm.
it though, but we are not talking about sex. And if
Yeah.
there's trauma around it, mm, we're really not talking about it. So, we can get triggered, have a whole breakdown in the middle of sex, cry, just be like, get turned off, don't want to do it anymore. And your partner is just like, but what did they can internalize that. So if there is no communication happening, you're setting you're setting the tone for assumptions, internalizations. There's just so much. So
Yeah.
really, we need to talk about the sexual relationship in general. And what were you
Yeah.
guys' individual experiences around sex? Was sexual safety talked about in the home? Was sex talked about in the home? How did you learn about sex? If porn came into play, when were you exposed to porn? All these things. I
Yeah.
get a lot of clients who come from the purity culture to where
Mm-hmm.
sex was not talked about at all. And there's this expectation that I have to show up in the marriage bed in a certain way, but I have no clue on what that looks like. And nobody's talking about how do you transition into that. You told me to wait, 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 wait. And I
And
waited.
then boom.
And it's
And
just
then
like,
do it.
and then my partner's not satisfied, or they may have more experience than I do, and I feel unworthy because am I meeting this expectation that because the conversation is not being had,
Yeah.
or I may have some physical things going on down there that may not be what they're used to. Like, I get so much
Yeah.
stuff, KayLee, so much stuff, and I'm just like, why are we not talking about sex?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
we
and
like we talk about everything else. Like everything else is blasted on social media, on the news, in common conversations. Ain't
yep.
nobody sitting around the dinner table talking about, oh, okay, so what's sex like for you? You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, of course
Well,
it has to
and
be age appropriate, but like
yeah.
just conversation in general.
Well, you make such good points. And I was just thinking, like, in this Facebook group, we have a lot of therapists, we have a lot of coaches, and those are some of the people we need to be talking to the most about bringing sex into that conversation because
Mhm.
so often it's like we'll talk about everything else, but we won't talk about that. But how often, like you said, people are having sex after betrayal, and those are can be re-traumatizing experiences for both partners, you know? So this is so important. And I also like this concept of it's actually quite simple. It's emotionally complex, but it's actually
Yeah.
quite simple. Is like we're slowing it down
Hmm.
and we're identifying what's happening inside of us. We're becoming mindful and we're communicating that
Hmm.
clearly. And if we don't know how, we work with a therapist who can help us communicate it clearly,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right?
Because
Because
it
if
can
it's
be
too
done.
scary or too
Mhm.
triggering, or if I even just think about it, I just feel sick, I don't want to go there, then that's when we have another person to hold our hand and say, hey, I can help you. We can walk through this. We can talk
Yeah.
through this. There might be therapy, trauma therapy that's needed to be able to communicate that clearly.
Mhm.
But you make such good points here. I really appreciate that. And that sexual safety is only going to come when we can process it internally and then express it externally
Mhm.
to others. A betrayer obviously created an environment that does not have sexual safety in it.
Yes. Yes.
So I know there are plenty of people who are like, I had a really healthy sexual childhood. My parents were really expressive with me. I have a really great sense of self and my own sexuality. And this has just torn that apart. And I think that that absolutely exists because the betrayal itself is a form of trauma.
It
You didn't
is.
have to have trauma leading up to this, right?
It is.
And because there's infinite ways to experience betrayal. Many of us didn't show up with a healthy sense. You reminded me when you said purity culture, the messaging I've heard people say is like sex is horrible and wrong and disgusting. In fact, it's a bad word. Like it's a swear word to say
Yeah.
the word sex. Save it for the person you love most in the world. Even if you don't grow up in full-blown deep purity culture, I think there is a general overview
Yes.
in America anyway, where we kind of have that energy.
We're the most sexualized society. I just don't get it. Like, we're a society in social media where we're highlighting you need to add this to your body, you need to add that to your body, you need to expose this
Yeah.
and have this needs to be tight and all this stuff. Yet ain't nobody talking about sex.
The healthy kind, the real
The
kind,
healthy
the
kind.
actual
The
vulnerable,
actual, like,
right?
the intimacy part. Like, I see
Mm-hmm.
you, you see me, has nothing to do with our nakedness physically, but what's within
Mm-hmm.
those
Yeah.
vulnerable places, like,
Yeah, it's almost like the pendulum, right? Because that part of it is so locked down that
hmm
the opposite version of it pops out in public. Yeah. And so being aware of our environment, how it influences us, being aware of our society, of our
yes,
culture and our community,
hmm
and then our home that we were raised in, the
yeah,
events that have happened to us, all of those things play into what's going on right now. And so if you're someone who's feeling really locked sexually or really in pain or easily triggered in this area, just know you're not alone. This is a pretty common, pretty almost universal experience. And
it
then you throw
is.
betrayal in the mix,
Yeah,
forget about it. Forget
yeah.
about it. That's just like a bomb going off.
Hmm
So, I was thinking about this. A lot of clients I've worked with struggle with their own physical bodies.
Okay.
And I've done some podcasts on here where we talk about body awareness or, sorry, body image. Even having a connection with their physical body can feel disconnecting after betrayal. So I wonder if you work with clients to reconnect with their own body after betrayal before involving a partner, but in a way that feels like it's in line with their own integrity. So what does that mean to reconnect with your own body, create safety with your body before you're involving your partner?
So before you're involving your partner, I definitely like to explore what is your sense of sexuality? How do you view sex? What is your sexual health? What's your sexual self? All the things like, and so sometimes body dysmorphia comes up.
Mhm.
Sometimes past body shaming comes up. May have heard some negative comments growing up that has shaped your view, your perspective, how you see yourself in the mirror. So, kind of reconnecting and seeing if that's kind of underlying. And then, if it is involved with betraying or betrayal, then how can we reconnect with a sense of you feel comfortable within your own skin? You're not internalizing their actions as something that's a reflection of you and kind of working through that. So there's this
Mhm.
book, it's called Sexual Self or Senses of Sexual Self or something. It's on Amazon. It's a purple book, and I think it is Sexual Self.
That sounds right.
It's a
Yeah.
workbook and it's purple and it's got pictures and it's got prompts and you can color penises and vaginas, all the things,
Good.
all
Getting
the
to know the body
get
parts,
to know the
right?
body parts and it asks questions like what comes up for you as you're coloring this picture or as you're reading this, what comes up, and
Yeah.
being able to reconnect, identify, sit within yourself and really be honest. So I really like this
Hmm.
workbook because it's really good on reclaiming that sexual self, formalizing a sexual self if that wasn't even there before the betrayal. But specifically coming back to a sense of like, how can I show up in a healthy way as I'm reconnecting with my betrayed partner or betrayal partner and discovering like it's not me. The
Hmm.
actions that were done that hurt me are not a reflection of who I am.
Yeah.
However, they do impact how I see myself. I need to work on that. I need to shift that, process that. So that's kind of where I am able to work through the sexual self after betrayal.
I love that. I love that. I've also had clients do um if it's not too triggering. So again, everybody is on their own path, on their own timeline. So at no point
Mhm.
am I telling everyone to run out and do like, even that workbook might be too much for you. And
Yes,
so again,
yes.
having support to do that when you're
Mhm.
ready, right?
When you're ready.
But some other things I've had clients do is healthy, professional, trauma informed massage. So if you can't even have someone touch you
Yep.
a little bit, There are trauma-informed massage therapists who are professionals. I know that can be triggering for some people just to say the word massage. So, obviously that's not for you right now if that's too much, but
Yeah.
if you are like, oh, I want to do more, the other can be trauma-informed yoga because you're moving your body into certain, arrangements. And then there's some mirror work. So some people are
Yes.
disconnected from their body. And so using mirrors to see all the different parts of your body and reclaiming those parts and seeing them as beautiful. And there's a lot of different things to do. And so there's a lot out there. I guess is what I hope the viewers and the listeners are hearing is there are a lot of options if you're feeling really stuck in this area.
KayLee, I really like that mirror intervention. I had a client from the purity culture that she was kind of raised in an aversive sexual kind of manner. That wasn't a conversation.
Yeah.
So being able to work with her, and she's like, Kendra, I'm not really like, I don't have a desire or an arousal. And I'm just like, okay, well, how do you view your body? Well, it's my body. It's just my body parts. I'm like, okay, well, let's just try standing in front of the mirror. No clothes on. Just see what you see, make mental notes and let's process it, the next time you come to session, just so you can see your intimate parts. And if you noticed anything, if anything comes up, I do think that is a good exercise for individuals who just need to be able to see themselves.
Yeah.
And work
And it
through.
helps with, yeah. So like I started weightlifting a couple of years ago and I had a trainer and she would have, the reason there's a lot of mirrors in gyms is because when you're doing a certain movement, you need to see it
Yeah.
and see your own body and it makes a body brain connection.
Yes.
And so the mirror works psychologically as well when we're learning to love our body again, but it sometimes needs to be teeny tiny bits at a time, right? Because it can be so difficult. And we do that pendulation where we come into it and then we give ourselves a break from it, right? And then we practice a little more and that can help.
I'm a big encourager of once a week. Do things once a week that you
You
never
can
done
do it.
before. You can do it just one time, okay?
Uh-huh.
And if one time is just like, okay, and if you do more, guess what? That's extra. So you should extra applaud yourself for accomplishing this goal. But one time, and then if it's okay, maybe we'll do 2 times a week. And then we just work ourselves, but just work with that one time. I just need you to try and be consistent with that trying. And then we just move up.
Yeah.
It's a little bit at a time because you can do this. You can do this. Oh, I can't say that enough, KayLee. This is work. However, no matter if you stay with the betraying partner or not, you still got to work on you. You still got to heal this because one day, if you do decide to get in another relationship, guess what happens? You don't deal with this emotional baggage, this sexual self baggage, all this stuff that this comes with. You're going to just set yourself up for having to rehash it all over again. And I would rather you sit within your own stuff, take time with your own healing before you just move forward. You ain't got to hurry up. You don't have to hurry up. Take your time with you.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. I was wondering, what do you see as some of the signs that a person's nervous system isn't ready for sexual intimacy yet? Even if they feel like they should be, because you get that feeling of like, well, I want to be, or I should be, or it's taking way too long. But what are some of those signs that maybe their nervous system's not quite there? So that we can honor our nervous system is what I mean.
Not being able to be fully present is one of the biggest things. Because if we're trying to re-engage in sexual intimacy and you find yourself drifting off or you find yourself triggered and you're still trying to force yourself, we got to stop. We got to stop. Because that can turn into something else. So lack of presence, you feel your body tensing up, like you're not aroused, the desire and you're in the middle of things and you completely disassociate. That's a sign to stop too. So just I like how you said, KayLee, being in touch with your body, being in tune with your body, knowing what your body feels like, knowing when your body is telling you no. because it does tell you no. And sometimes
Yeah.
we push our bodies into situations to where we struggle with being able to recover from. The Body Keeps the Score is the best book on physical trauma, that your body holds things that you
Yeah.
experience, and it can get triggered at any time. You getting sweaty, anxious, you getting hot, you just start, your legs start shaking, or you just can't sit still, all the things. You
Yeah.
know, you know that something's not right when you start feeling and hearing your body not doing the things that it's usually does, that you're common with. So,
Yeah, so I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate to
mhm,
if I were a betrayed client in these shoes, because I've heard a lot of
mhm.
these reactions. What if I said something like, "Well, what if I'm in the middle of sexual activity and I start feeling that way? What should I do? What would I do? Because I already said yes to him."
Okay.
So,
Okay. So if you're in the middle,
and then I'm all of a sudden my body's shutting down. I'm not
okay.
aroused. I'm panicking, or my brain is just thinking about what he did. You
Mhm.
know,
What
what
do
should
you
I
do?
do? Yeah.
Say something.
Mm.
Hey, I'm triggered right now. I'm not feeling comfortable with continuing. Can we just sit a minute? If the person feels comfortable enough to process what they're experiencing, share. Like, my body shut down. I don't know if you noticed that I wasn't, engaging the same way as I was. I know I said yes, but something happened. I had a thought, I had a feeling, and it's kind of taking me over. And I think that we just need to just stop for right now and just let me just take a break to gather myself. And it's okay, but you got to say something.
Mhm.
A lot of us struggle with just being able to verbalize what our experience is because of the fear of rejection, abandonment, being weaponized, and all these things. But it's like, you have to honor yourself. At the end of the day, you live in your body, not the other
Mhm.
person.
Well, and I guess that would be the next question a lot of clients say is like, well, he's going to either be mad at me or he might act out if I do that. If I say no, if I stop in the middle after I said yes, like he might get mad at me or he might act out later. So I can't. What would your reaction to that be?
For all my people pleasers, it's okay to say no. You have no control over the other person's actions, reactions, responses. Your only responsibility is to honor you. If they act
Yes.
out, okay. What is the consequence? If they react and get mad at you, okay. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Because it's their choice. You know,
It's
if they
their
choose
choice,
to
KayLee.
react, if they choose
Yes.
to, and if you're not in a physically safe, so if the thing is they're going to harm me physically if I say
Mhm.
no, we have a whole different set of things we got to
Whole
talk about,
thing. Yes.
right?
A whole nother
But
thing.
if it's they might act out, they might, they might get emotional, they might have a pity party, then we're working on being okay with other people having feelings and okay with other people making choices and deciding what we're going to do with those people's choices because we can't control them and it's not our fault, right? We're not going to take ownership over that. So
No.
I love that you said that. Fully
Ooh,
agree.
KayLee.
Fully agree. Yep, exactly. And so how many people have you had, have that conversation,
They're
right?
like, but Kendra, no, but Kendra, nothing. And you're not their parent. You're not their parent. You're not responsible for how they feel. There's a way you can convey how you feel and what's going on for you. What is not attacking, it's not disrespectful. You're trying to be as honest as possible with something that may be heavy. That's your only job. I think we get so caught up in people pleasing and well, I don't know, and what if they leave me and then I'll be alone forever. Then I have a question. You're afraid to be alone? Now we got to talk about
Mm,
that because that's even
mm-hmm,
deeper. You do not
mm-hmm,
need anybody to validate you, to make you
mm,
feel seen or heard. You got to start with yourself first. Do you value you? Do you love you? Do you have a sense of worth? If you
yeah.
do, guess what? Who's for you will be for you. And that's
Yeah.
all that matters. And that's a struggle out here because it's just like that is the road less traveled. Well, I'd rather be on that road than to conform to somebody else's control, somebody else's perceptions, somebody else's thoughts. How am I going to be my authentic self? How am I going to be my individual self?
Yeah.
How am I going to show up in this world as my own light and be able to inspire and help other people show up as themselves as well if I don't honor who I am and who I was created to be?
I
Mhm.
love it. I love it. So one last question, and then we'll see if we have any questions from here in the group. So for anyone listening who feels broken in this area, what would you say the first small compassionate step towards reclaiming sexual safety and self-trust? Where would they start?
Mm. Give yourself grace.
Mm,
Give yourself grace in the experience. However it came, however it's impacting you, just give yourself grace. Okay? Sometimes we have to fall apart to rebuild back together. And that's not a
mhm.
bad thing. It just makes us a better version of ourselves, you know? So as we're going through this journey, know that there are things that you're going to have to shed. There's perceptions, perspectives, ideas, expectations that you may have had of what this was supposed to be, what this was going to be like. Throw all that out the window. And
Yeah.
let's just start with a blank canvas. Because if we're parents, if we're connected to others who look up to us, guess what? We're going to have to show them that they can do this too. So it's not
Yeah.
about you, but it is about you. And it's how you handle and manage the situation, not in a state of perfection, but how can you perfect your imperfections and know that you will never arrive to perfection, ever.
Yeah.
But you can constantly grow and be better and do better. And you matter. You matter and you can do this. You know, there are boundaries that need to be put in place. You know, and if they're not met, if your needs aren't met, then we have to make a decision. Are we going to stay or are we going to go? But don't let nobody tell you on how to live your life, on how to proceed in this relationship. You do what's best for you. I think that's one of the biggest things too. It's like, well, other people gonna say this or they may think that, or what about my family? At the end of the day, they got their own problems that they need to worry about. That's what's wrong with our society. We so busy being nosy and other people's stuff that we can't mind our own business and be like, well, if I was in that position, I wouldn't do that. You don't know what you're gonna do because you're not in it. And if you were in it, you probably wouldn't tell nobody because most of the time within this community, ain't nobody telling nobody nothing because
Yeah.
they're afraid of what it'll do to their image or they're
Yeah.
afraid that they may not be understood. And that's reality. And it's important that this aspect of your life is protected because it's already been broken. So what you can do is to ensure that your healing from this is done in a place of of support from people who understand, get you a professional that you resonate with, that you connect with, that sees you,
Mm,
that's not trying to
mhm.
pressure you to do anything, that's trying to ask you, what do you want to do about this? And work with them and let them be a guide and a hand in a direction of where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Thank you so much, Kendra.
You're
And we're so
so
grateful
welcome.
you're here today.
Yes.
I just am checking the group and I
Okay.
don't see any questions. I see several people watching saying like,
And,
yes, love you. This is amazing. So
and
thank you so much. You're getting a lot of props from the community.
okay. Yes,
Um,
everybody.
I don't see any questions, but I
Okay.
remembered that we hopped over one that I said we'd come back to, which is
Yes.
about that initial, sometimes right at the beginning, you
Hmm.
will see that almost hypersexual
Yes.
drive in some betrayed,
Hmm.
a lot of betrayed people, especially right after the disclosure or the discovery.
Hmm.
For a little bit, there can be this kind of like intense burst, and some people feel like, is there something wrong with me? Why am I wanting to have sex with my partner all the time after I just found out what they did? Let's just take a minute or two and cover like, you've seen that as a sex
Yes.
therapist, like what do you make of that, and
So
how
that
do you help people see that?
hypersexuality is definitely coming from a sense of if I have more sex with them or if I do more things with them, they won't act out. That is not the case. If they want to act out, they're going to act out. What's going to happen is you're going to engage in sexual behaviors that you're not comfortable with. And then you're going to start looking at you like something's wrong with me. It's going to go even deeper.
Yeah.
You being hypersexual, there's nothing wrong with hypersexuality, but make sure it is yours. It's not trying to fill a void. It's not trying to fix anything, because you can't fix that person. They were already broken. 9 times out of 10, their acting out has nothing to do with you. Yes, you may have played a part because something was missing. A need wasn't getting met. However, we can communicate through that. We can fix that. That does not give them an excuse to betray you.
No.
No.
They could have made different choices.
They could have made different choices. They could have did something else, something before. There is so many detours that you can go down before you go down that path. No.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let's just talk. Let's be real. Or let's figure out, do we need somebody in place that helps us both feel comfortable to be able to have this conversation? Are you ready to have this conversation? But in a sense, hypersexuality, over-sexualizing yourself with your partner who betrayed you, that is not going to fix them. And it may make matters worse for you.
Yeah.
Because you may potentially over-sexualize and hypersexualize yourself, and they still act out, and then you're left to, I did everything that he engages with, and he's still, because you can't fix him or fix them or fix her.
Yeah. So clear, so true. That high energy sex that happens at the beginning is so often a protective mechanism, often a reactive protective mechanism of like, well, maybe I can protect myself in this way. And it kind of makes sense when you think about it that way, right? Why someone would do that. But like you said, that attempt at protection often can lead us to like either getting illnesses or diseases from our partner. Or like you said, they act out again, and then there's a feeling of like, so then it is my fault because I did everything possible. So then there's something inherently wrong with me. It can really, really hurt us. So I appreciate all the things that you covered there. So wise, so clear on that piece of it. So Kendra, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me, KayLee.
I can almost guarantee we're going to have more questions coming in here. But I also want to make sure that people can get access to you if they're local, if they're in the state, and they can work with you in your state, which is North Carolina. Is that right?
It is North Carolina.
And so what's the easiest way for people to find you, to get a hold of you? Do you have a website? Like how can they kind of call you if they want to get a hold of you?
So the easiest way, you guys, Kendra King, Charlotte, North Carolina. Google.
Nice.
That's the easiest way. I'm going to be the first one that comes up, I promise. Or you can just email me at Kendra@thehealinghearttherapycenter.com. Again, for those who didn't catch all of it, Kendra@thehealinghearttherapycenter.com. Or you can go to the website, thehealinghearttherapycenter.com, or you can just go on Psychology Today. You can do Kendra King, Charlotte, North Carolina, or you can do the Healing Heart Center, Charlotte, North Carolina. That is the easiest way to get a hold of me.
I love it. Thank you. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes so they can just click right over to it. But thank you so much for being with us, Kendra, to talk about this topic that, like you said, people aren't talking about, and we need to talk about it. Because it is such a big part of healing after betrayal. And so I just wanted to thank you again. And then I just want to thank everyone here listening. I appreciate showing up. It's hard. It's hard to have these conversations, to listen, even if it's at home listening. And so we're honored that you're here. And
thank you for showing up for you. Y'all showed up for yourselves. Okay. This is not easy, like KayLee said. But the fact that y'all are just in here, just listening, kudos to y'all. This was the first step. Acknowledgement is key.
Yeah. Love it. See ya.
Bye.